So this is the 07:10 hours GMT edition of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Khoodeelaar. KHOODEELAAR. So there are three vowels, all repeated twice. The Baby Angel Geronimo editions, Khoodeelaar television channel, and I'm Muhammad Haque presenting the Khoodeelaar television channel. And there is this item in the papers, in the Fleet Street papers, which are overdoing the picture of a panther, the big cat that has been found or seen or photographed somewhere in England. Let's see. Where is that? Don't like the Daily Mirror at all. So this is the one. It's the piece by Karin Donnelly, published at 5:33 today, 16th of August 2023. So this picture is the same picture, of course, in the same spot. And they're saying that the makers of a new documentary believe they have found the clearest photo of wild big cat in the United Kingdom. The image shows a large, muscular, black, panther-like cat lying in long grass in Smallthorne, Staffordshire. It was found in the files of zoology organization. It was marked March 17, but no year was listed. If the photo is real, experts say it is probably the best photo of a British cat, big cat, that exists. The image will be featured in the new award-winning documentary Panthera Britannia declassified alongside several other potential pieces of evidence supporting the existence of big cats on the British side. So this big baby one is seen in the long grass. So obviously taken the picture, whoever took the picture took it from a distance with a long lens. So they're going to show this film, the documentary. And the story is stuffed full of speculation, but the photographs are not very credible. Why the pictures are like shades? No real detail in the picture. So we shall be investigating more of this in due course. Except to say at this stage that the so called care for animals and love for animals that the Little Englanders propaganda kind of asserts exists is far from the truth. Cruelty to animals, neglect of animals, violence to animals are very, very real. And there exists no actual act of parliament, let alone any bylaws locally, that is intended to protect safeguard the animals. And the cruelty perpetrated by the registered charities, animal charities, including the RSPCA, is an ongoing criminality. And there doesn't seem to be any movement in the United Kingdom that actually is making daily notes or even so the culture that is being encouraged across England by the local councils uniformly is a cruel culture, negligent culture, indifferent culture, a violent culture, violent towards and against the animals. And the coverage in the local papers, in common with the so called national papers, also known as Fleet Street papers, is hardly there. So it is the same attitude towards animals that the dominant media, the commercially dominant media, show towards the campaigns for protecting the environment, campaign against pollution, campaign against pollution of all sorts. And there is no political party in the United Kingdom Parliament or outside Parliament that is actually engaged in the campaign for the protection of animals. The way that this particular picture is being captioned today, let's check the way they're captioning it. Normally, the Daily Star is ahead of the other titles in covering items about animals. But on this one, I'm still struggling to find the reference to this big cat one. Can't find it in today's edition. So the looking at the highly frantic promotion of the Lionesses, English speaking genocidists of the original nations, now also known as the Australians, are dominating the feel good news in the British press today. When the Aussie women players, more widely called the Matildas, are set to play the original genocidists' descendants, the Lionesses, during the first half of today, Wednesday, the 16th of August 2023. The Lionesses group photos are now totally white, especially after Laura James was deleted on a technicality by the racists configuring the Lionesses images during the tour now. Now, looking at the coverage, what is called the Premier League, etc., in the football terms. And it is clear that apartheid in culture and in sports is brazenly being promoted right across the continents. There is no Asian presence, there is no African presence. And as I said, Laura James is only there or has been there because she was English born and English raised. And the literally thousands of contests that take place between local and regional teams in the continents of Africa and Asia are assumed to not exist. So the brainwashing that takes place in the so-called press, the media, dominated by the copy supplied by Reuters, AFP, and Associated Press in the USA, and the counterparts in the BBC, the Sky News, etc., in the United Kingdom. This is the brainwashing that takes place by assuming the non-existence of the world. Non-existence of the world outside the white, and in this context, English-speaking, English linguistically centric conurbations. So the sports are now between Australia, England, and you can extend that to New Zealand and South Africa. And the ones that have taken place from Latin America, like Colombia, these are all European, mainly European descendants of European colonialists. What is the role of the United Nations? How many years has the United Nations been in existence for? And how are these sports being organized to suppress the non-European participants from Africa and Asia? So the fact that I'm talking about this is itself world exclusive, original observation. And this deserves to be wider and deserves to be actioned. There was a section of the Times newspaper letters column on Tuesday, the 15th of August, that referred to the so-called migrants. And it wrongly gave credit to Trevor Terrible Phillips, apparently published on the Monday, which is the 14th of August edition of the Times, where it is alleged that Trevor Terrible Phillips said that the most of the migrants are economic migrants. Now that is the stupidest thing that could be found about the migration crisis. It's not economic migration at all. It's severe lack of human rights and safety in the countries of origin in Africa and Asia. that push people to leave their countries? Behind the migration explains only a small part. But in any case, the United Nations, again on this one as well as on sports, as I said just a few minutes ago, is failing. United Nations is not dominating the narrative. And the fact that the European Union, according to the Times on Tuesday, the 15th of August, front page, is refusing to cooperate with Britain about the return of migrants shows that even after Brexit, the European Union is behaving like a racist organization, whereas the particular image of the European Union in the context of Brexit would be that it would be less hostile, less nasty than the post Brexit Britain. And the so called Remainers, that is, those in Britain who oppose the Brexit, are absent from the narrative. And the reason why they're absent is not because they don't know the issues that are being played. They are as racist as the Brexiteers. Remainers lost the Brexit vote in 19 anti-racist Europe and the mental slaves that pretended to be Remainers and pretended to be Labour Party supporters, some of them, the fact that the New European, the weekly that comes out on Thursdays, is Brexit had to win. Because Alistair Campbell is a racist, a fascist, and a criminal that remains dedicated to the ideology of the war criminal Tony Blair. So, anyone who wants to know why the Brexit vote won doesn't have to go far to look for the and rise of racist attacks noted starting from the day after the Brexit election or referendum. The anti-Brexiteers have not done anything to protect the human rights of the targets of racism in the United Kingdom. Whatever the background of the targets of racism, the anti-Brexiteers have failed or have chosen not to act to solidarize, let alone protect, the targets of racist attacks in the United Kingdom. In the 7 calendar years since June 2016, we have said in the tweets that the scandal currently being exposed surrounding the behavior of the daughter of the late Captain Tom, in stealing money from the charity needs to be seen in a wider context of the evidence of other criminals muscling in on the initiative by Captain Tom doing the work in his home, raising funds for the National Health Service. One criminal enterprise that was shamelessly and evidently corruptly, dishonestly, fraudulently promoted by the channel slaves. Channel slaves is known among the Bangladeshis in the United Kingdom as, quote, Channel S. And because the S is not described in the actual description, we have used the evidence of the contents of the broadcasts on the channel, and we have concluded that it's channel slaves. Channel slaves created a completely dishonest imitation of Captain Tom by promoting an individual who claimed to be 100 years old, just as Captain Tom was. There is no way that this was truthfully verified. And this individual was then pushed to be included in the list of recipients of an OBE or something. This is one of the fraudulent acts, one of the many fraudulent acts that the channel slaves has been guilty of doing. And that actually shows the stupidity and the slavery, mental slavery. There is nothing independent based on the independent initiatives of the Bangladeshis in the United Kingdom, whose name the criminals use for the business to perpetrate the channel slaves. There is no commentary, there is no facts, there is no investigation, not on channel slaves nor on the other channels. I understand no need. Or crimes, for example, when the so-called founder of these criminal channel slaves, the founder called Mahi Firdaus Jalil, claimed when he claimed that he was making a contribution, significant contribution to the EU Bangladeshi perpetrated in praising the twice convicted fraudster imprisoned for fraud. And Luthuraman actually knowingly endorsed this convicted criminal. Now, this convicted criminal is in the news more often than not internally within the community, the Bangladeshi community circles, mainly because of the perpetrations of invented stories on its channel. For several years, an individual completely ignorant about the Bangladeshi community in the United Kingdom, who arrived very recently, contextually very recently, was allowed to broadcast bogus achievements that came as shocking surprises for the community ordinarily existing in the United Kingdom. Although there is no evidence that we have actually been able to access as to the various stages of contacts between the channel slaves and these beneficiaries of these promotions. Factually, contextually, it can be strongly suggested these individuals be described as having met the objective criteria and have achieved anything. As soon as their particular promotion ends, the cease to appear again. And if you look at the ordinary streets of, let's say, Brick Lane, Tower Hamlets, looking for any evidence of any activities for the community in a non-profit way by any of these individuals, you will find no evidence whatsoever. So it's not just the two recorded serious convictions for fraud that Mahi Firdaus Jalil has been exposed as being involved in, the perpetrator of. Day to day, the channel slaves is an operation that promotes smaller acts of fraud and fraudulent lines. And those lines include the lines tacitly supporting the corrupt regime in Tar Hamlets Council. The channel slaves was also involved with the promotion for several years, broadcasting the so-called Bengali Mela held in the Bethnal Green area. But if you look at the actual lineup and if you look at the presentations, these are empty, phantom cultural events. They really did not represent the ordinary experiences of the overwhelming confections, sometimes obscenely featuring really irrelevant, really irrelevant, quote, stars from the periphery of the Indian cinema. These people had no connection with the Bangladeshis in the United Kingdom, most certainly not in Tar Hamlets. And there has been no opposition from any so called elected member or members, supposedly elected by the people in various wards in Tar Hamlets, to these intrusions, these invasions, violations, and diversions. So, quite how and it was never supported by the contents. And the people who claimed to be critical of the Bangla Mela turned out were not motivated by any objectively verifiable solidarity with the ordinary community and its culture, but they were trying to get in on the act so that they could get some money from Tar Hamlets Council, which is what the so-called organizer of the Mela for many years was being paid money by Townless Council. And these critics were not critical because of the contents of the events, they were critical because they were not getting the money. And this extends to the so called ethnicity linked newspapers, most of which have disappeared now, as well as the so called ethnicity linked satellite television outlets, rivaling the operation of the channel slaves. The other thing is that all these slaves, mental slaves, they come from Silot, but they're mentally enslaved to the non Siloti, anti Siloti operatives, mainly based in Bangladesh, but dictating the terms based on the political narrative created for the benefit of those anti Siloti, anti Bangladeshi elements that are essentially corrupt to the core. And this rivalry between the so called ethnicity linked television outlets is a rivalry based on the inherent internecine corruption, greed, and jealousy. Enlightenment is not something they have ever heard of. So we shall be talking about all of these in due course more. And one of the things that we are going to do in the course of the podcast is to examine a thing called reality with Mahi. Now, reality with Mahi is an ignorant, stupid, completely ill-informed, ill-briefed outlet fronted by Mahi Firdaus Jalil, who has phantom guests. What happens when the guests appear? Time to develop the analysis. But he completely goes each of the topics and introduces something completely stupid, unrelated, illogical, irrelevant. So it's not reality, it's fantasy. It's phantom program fronted by Mahi Firdaus Jalil. We shall be talking about Mahi Firdaus Jalil and the reality, the absurdity, the unreality, and the untruthfulness in future editions. We have been on this broadcast for just over half an hour, I think. Let's check the actual time that we have been on this one. See how long we've been. Well, it's coming to nearly an hour. Now we go back to the situation in Pakistan and check what the Haque Azadi is doing. I'll come to that. From Trons. The latest one that is being posted now and we're looking at the one website fastpost.com and it's leading with the heading Islamabad courts reject Imran Khan's bail pleas in 9 cases. The PTI chief arrest in a corruption case on May the 9th this year triggered violent protests with the party supporters attacking the defense and military installations in many parts of the country. Now, this is a line completely taken from the propagandists for the Pakistan regime because Imran Khan is not credibly guilty of any corruption whatsoever. And the arrest for corruption, that phrase being used without any quotation marks, is itself corrupt. So, what is happening with the so called courts? These are not courts, these are joke courts. And India today has got a piece about the Pakistan Cricket Board having been slammed for leaving out Imran Khan from the history of cricket in Pakistan that has been released to mark the Pakistan Independence Day. Now, the basic fact is this: if they leave out the achievements and the performance of Imran Khan as a cricket sports person, then they cannot find anything comparable at all. There is no other Pakistani cricketer who can be compared with the achievements of Imran Khan. So, what did they think they were doing when they left out Imran Khan? I mean, who did they think would believe them? And how did they think that that would be actually promoting any against Imran Khan? This is completely sick making. So, this is a summary in the London Evening No Standard. It says former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, who has been arrested and barred from running for office by opponents, made his name in English country cricket before becoming one of the great all rounders in world cricket with Pakistan national team. But some seem keen to forget his sporting prowess. The Pakistan Cricket Board has released a video celebrating the history of the national team. It touts a legacy that etches through time from the team's international debut in 1952 through to recent success in the Asia Cup. But Khan does not appear once. A long segment about Pakistan's World Cup victory in 1992 manages to omit any mention of Khan, who captained the team in 1992. It's all changed at the famous black doors of number 10 and number 11. That is the next item, so we are not talking about that now. Going back to this issue of this man, Andrew Malkinson. Malkinson was in jail in the United Kingdom, and DNA evidence of another man found 3 years after the rape conviction for which Malkinson was convicted, it was reason for rape, according to reports. Police and prosecutors reportedly knew in 2007 about the DNA of another man on the victim's clothes. Yet Mr. Malkinson stayed behind bars for 13 more years. Mr. Malkinson, who spent 17 years in prison for a rape he did not commit, had his conviction quashed last month after the DNA linking another man to the crime was produced. Case files obtained by the 57-year-old as he battled to be forced freed show that officers and prosecutors knew forensic testing in 2007 had identified a searchable male DNA profile on the rape victim's vest top that did not match his own, the Guardian reported on Tuesday. They opted to take no further action, and there is no record that they told the Criminal Cases Review Commission, the body responsible for the investigating possible miscarriages of justice, according to the report in The Guardian. Notes of the meeting between the Forensic Science Service, the Crown Prosecution Service, the Greater Manchester Police, in December 2009 suggests the Crown Prosecution Service understood the possible importance of the 2007 DNA find, according to the report. The CPS said Mr. Malkinson's lawyers were told of the new DNA evidence. The CCRC refused to order further forensic testing or refer the case for the appeal in 2012. And the case files reportedly suggest it was worried about costs. Mr. Malkinson, one wrongly found I'll read that again. Mr. Malkinson was wrongly found guilty of raping a woman in Greater Manchester in 2003, and the next year was jailed for life with a minimum term of 7 years, but he served a further 10 because he maintained his innocence. CPS guidance states it must write to the CCRC at the earliest opportunity about any case in which there is doubt about the safety of the conviction. An internal log of Mr. Malkinson's first application of the CCRC in 2009 reportedly revealed CCRC highlighted the cost of further testing and said it would be unlikely to lead to his conviction being quashed. Now, this is exactly the kind of attitude that the DEFRA has shown to be Baby Angel Geronimo. Baby Angel Geronimo has been innocent, absolutely innocent right from the start, and there has been no testing. There is no testing allowed by the DEFRA to show that Baby Angel Geronimo is innocent, has been innocent, and cannot have been any alleged infection. Mr. Malkinson's solicitor, Emily Bolton, director of the Appeal charity, said the documents are shocking chronicle of how Andy was utterly failed by the body, which should have put an end to his wrongful conviction nightmare, but instead acted as a barrier to justice. An overhaul of the CCRC is needed to prevent it failing other innocent prisoners. Now, I don't agree. The CCRC needs to be scrapped, and those responsible for blocking Mr. Malkinson and others, similarly innocent, from getting their justice should be listed and prosecuted without any delay. And these individuals should be added to the list of those who should be made to pay real sums of damages to Andrew Malkinson and others like him. So we shall be ending this one particularly at 1 hour 11 minutes length. And we shall continue on all the topics in due course.